Okay, so a text has been distributed with some selections from Rashi's commentary on the Parashat this week, and so I found them interesting. So I want to look at them. And for those of you who are on Zoom, you don't have it, but I will read it. And again, they're short selections, so it shouldn't, you should still be able to follow what I say. So here in chapter 25, verse 40, God says, "Now see and make according to the pattern which you are shown on the mountain." Now see and make. See here on the mountain the pattern that I am showing you. This informs us that Moses had difficulties with the construction of the menorah until the Holy One, blessed is He, showed him a model menorah of fire. Okay, and then it goes on, Asher Ata Moreh Bahar. Okay, and the point here, I don't have to get into all the grammar, but that this is passive and not active. Okay, it means which you are shown on the mountain, not which you will show on the mountain, right? Because the point is that Moses is having difficulty following God's commands. He doesn't understand them. Okay, so I find this fascinating, right? I find it interesting in a couple of ways. One is the idea that Moses is not perfect, right? God is telling him what to do, right? And Moses is like, a guy in Wegmans, right? And he has to call his wife and say, did you mean, the non-fat yogurt or the regular yogurt, right? With artificial sweat, without, right? I don't understand any of this, right? So, so she goes to the refrigerator and takes a picture of the yogurt and texts him the yogurt, right? And oh, okay, now I know which one, right? So Moses, he doesn't get it, right? So God said, all right, you know what? And he makes a menorah out of fire, and Moses sees this vision of the menorah, and now Moses knows what the menorah is supposed to look like, right? And for me, right, and then in 26:30 basically says the same thing. You shall erect the Mishkan. The Mishkan is the tabernacle, according to its proper manner, as you will have been shown on the mountain, right? And again, God apparently goes through all these instructions, right? These instructions which I read this morning. And, it's difficult Hebrew. I mean, even though my Hebrew is pretty good, but this is difficult Hebrew because it's like construction terms, right? And I am not, Kelly will tell you, even if we get something from IKEA rather, right? Or IKEA is the Israeli domestic airline, IKEA. If we get something like IKEA, we have a division of labor, okay? I bring it inside, I open the box, I pour everything out, and I go to Starbucks. And she puts it together, right? And that way I come home and it's built and it's constructed and we haven't yelled at each other, right? It's a very efficient division of labor, right? But, and come to think of it, right? If you have IKEA it's all pictures, right? It's not It's not words, it's really not words, it's all pictures, right? But the point is, I mean, so Moses is not perfect, right? He gets confused and he misunderstands, right? And this is one of the things, I mean, you know, God forbid that I should say Judaism is better than other religions, right? But in some ways, our texts are more relatable, right? I mean, Jesus is perfect in the Christian scriptures, and Muhammad is perfect in Islam, and our folks, they're not perfect, right? They get confused and they don't understand and they make mistakes, right? And we, I mean, I'm not saying we should model ourselves after them and get confused and make mistakes, right? But I learned in the Torah that I should make mistakes. It's a good thing because I wouldn't make mistakes if I wasn't, right? But the point is that we can strive to be like them precisely because they're not perfect. They're humans, right? And humans are relatable and humans are fallible, right? But the other thing that sticks out to me is that sometimes, right, words, you can't teach with words, right? You have to do it somewhere else, right? Like how, I mean, you know, before we all had, you know, Waze or Google Maps or whatever, right? How many times would somebody give you a direction and they say, and you go here, you turn right or left, let me draw you a map, right? You don't have to do that anymore, right? But that's the way, right? Because a map is easier to follow than directions, right? Or, I mean, here's a better one. Explain to somebody who's never put on tefillin how to put on tefillin, right? It's impossible, right? Michael, you asked me to show Jacob how to put on tefillin, and what did I say? I said, bring in Jacob and bring in the tefillin, and I'll show him how, right? But you can't explain it. You have to show it. You have to demonstrate it, right? And there are things in life that can't be taught merely by words, right? And God understood this, and that's fine. I mean, you know, but Rashi understood this, right? And Rashi was the teacher par excellence, right? I mean, that's his role. I mean, he's not a pioneering theological thinker, right? He's a West Highland Terrier, but he's also, you know, he's also the teacher, the explainer, right? He explains it in ways that make it more accessible. So to me, as somebody who really, I think that's one of my key roles as a rabbi, is to take the wisdom of our tradition and make it more accessible to you. Not that I'm smarter, but I studied it, right? I studied the texts and the traditions, and I studied education, and that's, you know, that's what I'm here to do. So so that's why, to me, this text is really kind of fascinating. So that's why I brought it. So I've spoken about it. Are there any thoughts, questions, comments on this text? Not even deep.
All right, since you asked, I just want to piggyback on what you said. When I was teaching speech communication in high school, I gave my students an assignment which I called nonverbal communication, and they had to pick some activity or some process to explain to their classmates without using any words at all, starting with the simplest of how to tie a shoe. And it was really fascinating, the moaning and the groaning that went on, and the importance of pantomime that had accurate detail, how to bake a cake, how to brush your teeth, how to tie your shoes, just simple things. And then it was just a session after that to process, how did you have to think in order to make something clear to somebody that was crystal clear to yourself, particularly if you were performing in front of somebody who didn't speak our language. And I learned as much from teaching it as they learned from processing it. So thank you. This was special for me.
Right, and actually that's a very good example. I mean, I've always used to fill in, but you know, to a more general audience, shoelaces would be another example, right? You can't really, I mean, right, pretty much everybody, I mean, if you're a parent, you taught your kids how to tie their shoe, right? Or did they learn it in kindergarten? I don't know, but you can't, right? You can't explain how to tie shoes, right? You have to show how to tie shoes, right? That may be enough with the Velcro and all that, may be going out of style too, right? I mean, you know, technology is destroying our need for these pedagogical, right? I don't know, but
Rabbi, one more quick point. All of us, I think, experienced when we were very little how to, whether it was kindergarten or whatever, how to skip, hop, and jump. And now try teaching it to one of us who had never done it before. It's very, very hard. Often when you're trying to teach kids how to skip, they can only do it on one leg. And so this was just a fascinating lesson I learned a lot from.
Okay, great. All right. Shabbat Shalom. And get out of here a little early today, which is not a bad thing. And we continue with Chatzi Kaddish, page 155 in the Shabbat.